Year ago, when Hurricane Helene hit, most of Augusta and many of Georgia were thinking about the upcoming game between Alabama and Georgia. Right here at May Park, recreation football probably was kicking in. But in just a few short days, May Park and other locations transitioned from a place of fun and a place of play to one where people have had to use it as a refuge for their very survival. And although the severity of this storm took most of us by surprise, the warning signs had been there. Augusta, for instance, had already seen severe weather events such as the 2014 ice storm. Georgia had also experienced other severe weather experiences. We can no longer ignore the signs because the human economic toll are catastrophic. With Helene, 29 lives were lost in our area. Over 300 homes were destroyed, and over 3,000 people suffered major home damage. And the cleanup is still stretched into 2025. But unfortunately, the federal government is in the process of cutting or creating uncertainty on whether needed federal agencies and funds will be available for the next severe weather event. For instance, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has lost over 600 employees, either by being cut or by taking buyouts, which constitutes almost 70% of their workforce reduction. We know there have been proposed cuts to FEMA, which means that if there is another severe weather event, it will be great uncertainty to whether FEMA and other state agencies will be able to meet those efforts. So therefore, with these facts in mind, we realize that another severe weather event could happen. So we encourage our congressional delegation to do two things. Number one is to make sure that the uncertainty and cuts do not take place as far as FEMA or NOAA is concerned, and also to make sure that if we do have an extreme weather event, that all proper funding will take place. And then the second thing is to continue efforts that have been started before, but continue efforts to make sure that severe weather events do not occur again, whether that's for pollution control or other measures. Those are the things that our congressional delegation needs to be concentrated on. We need to make sure our citizens are not uncertain, and we need to make sure that our agencies are able to work to provide services if another event happens. And with that, I'll allow Cassandra Lofton to come up and speak.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Laughlin. I am part of the Healthy Communities Augusta and also a proud resident of East Augusta. When Hurricane Helene hit, that hit was not felt evenly across the city. East Augusta's underserved neighborhoods, the recovery was slow and brutal. In a neighborhood that already suffers health inequalities, low income, and low resources, it was a struggle. I had roof damage, but I'm fortunate. I actually have homeowners insurance. Many of my neighbors do not. In an older neighborhood like mine, that's third generation, when the mortgage is paid off, many people opt to cancel their homeowners insurance because when funds are tight, insurance is the first thing to go. There was no money to fix roofs in East Augusta. Tarps were used as a permanent fix. The risk did not end once Helene passed. Damaged roofs and exposed wiring, along with the heavy rains that followed, created many fires in my neighborhood. One of the worst cases was on the 400 block of Azalea Street. When the heavy rain came, that home caught on fire. It was occupied by a grandfather and grandson living together in their home. The grandson had to drag his grandfather out, breaking 3 bones in the process. The Red Cross was able to step in and help. However, because the shelters were already full, they were unable to place them together. So without transportation and being far apart, the grandson was unable to take care of or provide comfort for his grandfather. That is heartbreak on top of hardship. The day after the storm, it was Gap Ministries, Resource Augusta, Savannah Riverkeeper, and many, many churches that stepped in to fill the gap. As you know, FEMA does not step in until 3 days after a hurricane. And those 3 days can mean life or death for a low-income neighborhood. We organized supply drops, we coordinated shelter, we found ways to get water and food and medical supplies to areas that needed the most. We moved mountains to get essential goods to families who had lost everything. But local organizations cannot carry this burden alone. We are already stretched thin to the breaking point dealing with everyday needs in this area. When a climate-related weather incident occurs, it hits us like a freight train. That's why federal oversight and resources matter. Agencies like the EPA and FEMA are not just Washington acronyms. They are a lifeline to communities like East Augusta. FEMA provides disaster preparedness and response that can mean the difference between chaos and recovery. The EPA forces pollution protections and safeguards that put policies in place that can curtail climate-related disasters. Weakening these agencies, cutting their budgets, or rolling back climate protection puts the most vulnerable people at the crosshairs. It leaves us to weather the next storm without the tools that we need to survive and recover. We cannot let that happen. We need strong, well-funded federal oversight to ensure every community, not just the wealthiest or the most visible, gets the protection and support it deserves. I'll now turn it over to Tracy George.
Hello, neighbors, friends, and family. We are standing at a crossroads. My name is Tracy George. I am here before you today as a community advocate and resident of Augusta, Georgia. While tropical storms are stirring right now out in the Atlantic, aiming here for my hometown of Augusta, we're still healing from the scars of Hurricane Helene, the most powerful storm to strike Georgia in our lifetime. It wasn't just wind and rain. It was a wake-up call. With that storm and everyone since, we're all now living with PTSD, post-traumatic storm disorder. Moments are relived. As the rain pours and the thunders roll, thoughts are filled with, will the floodwaters also rise? Will that father have to rescue his family from falling trees on their home in the middle of the night? Will we have to search for adequate housing where there is none? Helene ripped apart not only our homes, but also our very sense of safety. We lost power, we lost resources, we lost the ease of everyday life due to the destruction of our infrastructure. It was in the days after Helene, I vividly remember checking on my neighbors during our storm recovery and assisting many to secure vital resources. While several agencies had to come together, as Cassandra mentioned, we were left to fend for ourselves. Some to this day are still without permanent homes, having to rely upon insurance agencies and contractors to rebuild their lives. Many of them are our elders, people who should be enjoying peace in their latter years of life, yet they're forced into new mortgages and lives to start over from scratch at a time when they definitely should be settling down. This is simply not okay. Clean air, clean water, safe, secure homes, these are luxuries. These are not luxuries, they are basic human rights. Yet the very agencies meant to protect these, such as NOAA, EPA, FEMA, are being weakened, shut down, or even sidelined. That then does not protect our welfare. That does then not protect our children's future. We need collective community action to stand together, stay vigilant, and also be storm ready. Basic education on how to be storm ready. Let's be proactive. For the next season is upon us. Readiness is not enough. We must demand bold, immediate action on climate change. From our rural areas where I was able to assist in Lincoln County, over to Jefferson County, and down into Jenkins County. Our areas were hit hardest by Helene and have been left behind in recovery. This must end now. Just this weekend alone, I took my family kayaking along the canal, and the journey was nearly impossible. Trees and storm debris is still blocking the waterways here nearly a year after the storm. We deserve safe, open outdoor spaces, We deserve a healthy environment that invites joy, not danger. So today, I too am calling on Congress, our state leaders, our congressional delegation, and every neighbor here. Act now. Demand extreme climate action. Protect rural recovery. Safeguard our air, our water, and our future. Because the storms will come again. The question then is, will we be ready or will we remain silent? I shall now pass it over to Paige Brockmore. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I just want to say a big thank you again to Mike, to Cassandra, the Senator, and Tracy for the opportunity to be here and bring this issue to the forefront of our leaders' minds today. So thank you all for that, and thank you for what you guys had to say. I just want to echo everything they said. Amen to that is what I want to say. So I, just as a reminder, my name is Paige Brockmeyer. So I'm a nurse. I'm an active duty military spouse and a mom as well. And I wanted to talk about my Helene experience and what I'm asking Congress to do today. So I'm just, like I said, grateful to have another opportunity to talk about this. And I'm asking Congress to fully fund the existing programs that help us predict, prepare for extreme weather, and prevent loss of people and property. Like I said, I'm a nurse, military spouse, and mom. Like any other mom of school-age children, our life is pretty action-packed on the daily. I often joke about living in a natural disaster area in my house, but unfortunately last year that truly was the case for us all. None of us in Augusta ever would have expected the utter chaos that Helene rained down on us last fall. While I was immensely blessed to have my family and property safe, that was not the case for so many others, as you've already heard and are aware. The storm also wreaked havoc on our area hospitals. While my children, pets, and I evacuated our home, which was without power for about 2 weeks or so, my husband had to stay. As part of the leadership at Eisenhower Army Medical Center, my husband was immediately occupied with trying to ensure the safety of hospital staff members and the logistics of trying to safely care for patients in the aftermath of the hurricane. Some hospital staff were unable to leave their homes from the physical barriers of downed trees and flooding, not to mention not having any electricity. Also, when Augusta's water supply was temporarily shut off, the Army Medical Center was faced with trying to care for patients without running water. Not only is a lack of running water an issue for bathing and drinking, but for things like the sterilization of equipment required to maintain safe surgical operations. The Army Medical Center was eventually forced to evacuate the hospital for a brief period of time, but other area hospitals as well came dangerously close to having to evacuate patients. While there's a lot of debate these days about what government should or shouldn't be doing, I think most people would agree that one of the most important roles of government is to help provide safety and security. I wish that when I was a child, I won't say how many years ago, the leaders of industry and government who already knew what uncontrolled burning of fossil fuels was going to do to the planet's climate systems that cause these extreme storms would have taken action and changed course to make us safer today. Instead, they chose to ignore the already clear science at the time and clung to dangerous, antiquated forms of energy. Today, unfortunately, this way of thinking still prevails, even though clean energy is available, but the consequences are now in our faces. Hellish Helene took lives, health, and wealth last year. Congressman Allen and others, please don't continue to make the same mistakes of your predecessors. You still have the power to turn this Titanic away from the iceberg. We are still going to experience extreme weather events more and more, but you can help minimize the damage and protect lives and livelihood just by voting. Protect what protects us. NOAA, NASA, FEMA, the National Weather Service, these are not forms of wasteful government spending. These programs protect us, so protect them. And lastly, and Cassandra touched on this, the EPA even soon is making a decision about whether to backtrack a determination in 2009 about whether greenhouse gas pollution was indeed harmful to human health and the planet, so it could be regulated. It's funny to me, the tobacco industry used to claim that cigarettes weren't bad for you either. If inhaling cigarette smoke, as we know now, isn't good for you, why would inhaling other pollution on an industrial scale be okay? Just something to think about. So thank you very much for the opportunity.